Before we get into the first panel, I'd like to call David Anderson up. And members, the big education news this weekend, if you were reading your papers, was that the Fremont ISD, which is somewhere Corpus Christi-ish, if anybody knows exactly, they can tell me, is giving up athletics for some period of time because they don't have the money to do that and get good accountability scores. This is a district that is low performing in the rating system, I believe. And David, first of all, you want to...
David Anderson, Texas Education Agency.
Thank you for coming on short notice. Fremont is rated low performing, or whatever that rating is?
Yes.
Okay. The reason that I asked David to be here and that I bring this up is that the story has sort of all been about them being a low performing district and this, that, and the other. And so I looked up Fremont to find out what their funding situation was, and then asked the agency to sort of verify some of the information that I had found. David, can you characterize where Fremont is financially in the school finance system?
There are two different ways to answer that. In terms of revenue, our most recent figures show Fremont spending in maintenance and operations about $5,167 per weighted student, which is relatively low. They have since passed a TRE that will allow them to increase their tax rate, I believe, to $1.17. They're at $1.04 now.
They've been at $1.04.
That's correct.
And their revenue is $51.67. And how does that compare with all the districts who are at $1.04?
The average, and again we're looking back a year,
right,
for districts at $1.04 is $5,714.
So
about $550 difference.
Yeah, actually, I think is that not the average for all districts, or isn't it?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's all districts. You're right. It's $5,657. So about $400 difference.
Okay, so it's 400. Actually, I get 500, but my math is different. Never ask a lawyer to do that. But so they're getting $500 less than other districts that are taxing at a comparable rate per weighted student.
All other, but then the average.
But then the average. And in fact, would it strike you as unusual if I told you that they have about the 50th lowest revenue per student statewide?
I haven't looked at that distribution, but it's a lower revenue.
Okay. I also asked the agency, a lot of people say, so what? Money doesn't buy you anything. I asked the agency to figure out the average revenues of districts in different rating categories. Do you have that information?
Yes.
Could you tell us?
This is total expenditure, so we're not correcting for tax rates.
Right. This is regardless of the tax rate, just all of the districts that are, say, exemplary.
Yeah. Well, exemplary is 6,580.
Okay.
Recognized 5,751.
Okay.
Academically acceptable 5,662. Academically unacceptable 5,538.
So what you're saying is, on average, and there are clearly outliers and there are ranges, the districts that are rated exemplary in our system have revenue capacity, have the availability of revenue that is roughly $800 per weighted student above the ones that are recognized?
800, that's about right. They are expending, you mentioned capacity, and again, I'm not sure that's quite right given not having the information about tax rates, but they are spending that much more.
Well, or they have, we don't know what they're spending, we know what their income is.
Mm-hmm.
They may be putting it in a reserve account or they may be using reserves, but their income is that on state and local revenue.
State and local revenue.
And then, again, for comparison, Fremont is at
5,167 before their TRE.
Right, which they haven't had benefit from up till now.
That's correct.
So what you're saying is that Fremont's revenue is about about $400 less than even the average of the low-performing districts in the state.
Yes.
Do you know anything about the tax rates of the various categories of districts?
No, we haven't teased those out.
Okay. Would it surprise you if I said that I have, and they are exactly opposite of the amount of, in other words, the exemplary districts have on average of the four groups the lowest tax rates but the highest amount of money?
It does not surprise me that you've looked.
Okay. Well answered. Okay. But the accountability rating, one could draw a conclusion, maybe or maybe not valid, that the accountability rating might have something to do with the funding.
You've proposed a correlation there.
Well, there is a correlation. What I proposed is a cause and effect, but you've given us the correlation. As you go down the list, it correlates with lower money.
It correlates with expenditure.
It correlates
with revenue. But
That's
again,
right.
the tax rate hasn't been teased out of that.
Okay, that's right.